The story unfolds within Juju reminiscing about a personal encounter with an unknown and attractive man one evening. Her son's sudden voice through the AirPods brings her back to reality. Juju, a hacker, places her hand on her head, expressing concern about recalling an incident from 5 years ago. She informs her son that all is prepared on her end and inquires about his current location. Juju's child, Buting, is a 5-year-old boy situated in the auction's power room. He shares his excitement for today's auction featuring Grandma's Aurora Borealis, referring to it as a delightful treasure hunt. Juju smiles, acknowledging the familial connection, and affirms their adherence to the plan. Meanwhile, the auction commences as a bell is rung by a man. The speaker expresses gratitude for everyone's participation in the jewelry auction organized by G Group, announcing the approaching end and the initiation of the grand finale. The speaker then introduces lot number 1, unveiling the Aurora Borealis. As the item is revealed, Juju signals her son to darken the auction room by turning off the lights. Buting complies, plunging the room into darkness, causing chaos among the attendees. After a minute, power is restored. Subsequently, the speaker reacts with a scream upon discovering the missing Aurora Borealis. Juju has already left the auction room, walking away with the jewel. She commends Buting for a job well done and discusses the next steps. Buting shares his tasks of sealing exits, preventing suspicious individuals from leaving, and following a specific sequence of actions, including waiting for his mom on a motorcycle. He expresses pride in the perceived simplicity of the treasure hunt and eagerness to return home. Abruptly, a voice questions Buting's presence in the power room. Startled, he turns to find a man with a serious expression. Buting looks at him uneasily, contemplating whether he has been discovered. He also wonders why the man looks so much like him. Suddenly, another man approaches him, addressing him as young master. He crouches down and tells him that they have been looking for him everywhere. He suggests they go back with Mr. G. Buting looks confused and points to himself, asking if they were talking about him. The previous scary-looking man addresses Buting as Aweo and offers his hand. Buting is upset at this point since his name is Pudding, and he doesn't know any Aweo. Besides, he is irritated at the man for telling him to come to him as if he were a puppy. However, Buting walks up to him happily and apologizes for cutting off the electricity. He thinks of how his mother advised him to hug the big leg in a critical situation, and to Buting, the handsome uncle seems to be the most dangerous one here. He even recognized him as his son, so he has to take advantage. The manager looks at Buting in awe and requests that Mr. G not be angry at the child since he's still young, but is interrupted. Mr. G picks up Buting in his arms and says to leave such things to the guard as he doesn't have to do them himself. Buting complies with him, calling him daddy. They start to walk away, leaving the manager behind. The manager thinks to himself that it was good of Mr. G to teach his child, but he should rather teach the child not to do such things. As they walk out of the power room, Mr. G's assistant approaches them worriedly. He informs Mr. G that the precious stone, Aurora Borealis, they were about to sell is gone, causing him to frown. In the meantime, Juju jumps out of the event and back onto the roof. Everything has gone smoothly, and she has also hacked the mall's surveillance system in advance so the security team may not find her out. Suddenly, a voice makes her freeze. She turns back, wondering if she was caught. It was a boy who looked exactly like Buting. The boy Ao has crossed his arms and is angrily staring at Aunt Juju. He asks her how she suddenly appeared from the ground and if she was a ghost. Juju thinks the boy is Pudding and wonders why he didn't follow their initial plan. She pinches his cheeks irritatingly and tells him she is his mother. She then asks him why he didn't go through the gate and if he was worried about her, and if he ran here and accidentally slipped down according to the plan. Aweo touches his pinched cheeks and blushes. He wonders why the woman called herself his mother and if she is the one his nanny arranged for his dad. To him, it looked like a late-night misadventure into a stranger's room and how that may result in being abandoned and dragging the family name down. In the end, the woman returns, mastering her unique skills and getting revenge by having a triple harvest of love career in baby. O mentally mocks his nanny's eyesight but realizes it wasn't her fault. Immediately, they hear police sirens, and the policeman orders the others to look through the power distribution room. Juju looks down at them in dismay and picks the boy up. Ah is taken aback by this, but Juju, who still thinks of him as pudding, tells him that there is no time to waste and that he should come down to the building with his mommy. She looks at him and smiles, asking why he hadn't said anything. She asks if he is scared because the building is quite high. She kisses him on the forehead and tells him to hold on to her. After that, she jumps off the roof using a zipline. Oweo's hair is blown back, exposing his forehead as he blushes while thinking about how Juju had kissed him without holding back. Suddenly, Juju notices the rope is about to break since the original escape plan didn't have pudding, so the rope can't hold the extra weight. The rope snaps immediately, and both start to fall. Oweo starts contemplating his probability of getting injured as his head spins rapidly in terms of gravitational acceleration and angle of impact. The impact of him getting injured is 100%. Even if he assumes a well-built male police officer at a speed of 4 m per second, he will be there within 2 minutes, and the probability that the woman carrying him can help call an ambulance for him is almost zero. He immediately closes his eyes, however, Juju hits a building window, managing to let no harm come to him. Seeing her cough, he starts getting worried and asks if she is okay. Juju smiles at him and assures him she will be fine after arrest. Oweo starts checking her thoroughly and explains to her that a severe impact can cause damage to the spinal cord and internal organs, and it does not heal with just a little rest. He frowns at her and asks if she is trying to trick him like a child, further lecturing Juju that she should be self-aware and not do such dangerous things without techniques. Oweo's words stab through Juju's heart as she wonders how sharp children nowadays are. She gets up and forces a smile, assuring him again that she is okay. The boy crosses his arms and thinks of her as so stupid that even if she found out her child was missing, she wouldn't know how to behave. He mentally decides to behave like her son for the time being. Oweo grabs Juju's finger and leads her away, telling her they should go home now. Meanwhile, Buting is eating lots of delicious foods back at Mr. G's house. He puts a cake in a box, planning to give it to his mother to make her happy. Mr. G, who is working on his laptop, looks at him and tells him that if he likes it, the kitchen will keep it on hand every day. Suddenly, Mr. G's assistant informs him that the thief is a great player since all surveillance cameras on the auction site have been hacked, including the security system. Mr. G asks him if they don't even know whether the person is male or female, to which his assistant apologizes and says no. Buting looks at them and smiles. He knows his mother is powerful, due to which they have been unable to find her. He thinks of finding a way out quickly and joining his mother, but he looks up at Mr. G and wonders if he will be a good husband for his mother since he's both handsome and rich. Mr. G is the president of Dingfang International and the man who controls the economic lifeline of Zhangcheng City with a fortune of about 100 million. He is the dream man of a million girls and is reputed to be excellent in the business world. As Mr. G gets ready to take a shower, he thinks of the hacker who stole Aurora Borealis and how they cannot be traced. While caressing his wet hair in the shower, he reflects on the situation and the connection between the events. Even though he got the Aurora Borealis by chance, he considered investigating them from the beginning. As Mr. G leaves the bathroom, he sees Buting in his room checking his mobile. He frowns, as Oweo never took the initiative to come to his room himself, let alone check his mobile. Buting doesn't notice Mr. G standing behind him, looking at the stocks. He decides to send them to his mother on behalf of his future husband and not miss this chance of getting a husband for his mother. Mr. G asks him what he is doing, and Buting is taken aback at his sudden appearance. He becomes so scared that he metaphorically turns into a dumpling. He tells him he is just looking at the stocks. Mr. G picks him up and says he doesn't know anything about stocks. Buting taps his fingers awkwardly and says that he just got interested in them recently and that if children don't understand something, they should learn it. Mr. G stares at him suspiciously and puts Buting down, asking him to go to sleep now. Buting instantly clenches his chest, his heart pounding heavily as he is almost found out. He decides he must hurry back to his mother. When Buting leaves the room, Mr. G calls Xiao Chen and tells him to book him a paternity test tomorrow. He tells him to also check the surveillance cameras around the areas where Oweo went yesterday and sends some people over there to check again. He ends the call and rubs his nose, wondering if he has been too tired lately since he has mistaken his own son. Meanwhile, Juju has taken Oweo home. She still doesn't know he is not Buting. She claps her hands happily and tells Oweo to watch TV while she prepares a big meal for him. Oweo looks at her seriously and replies in agreement. And Juju feels like something is wrong and stares at him. She notices him wearing premium limited edition clothes and handmade Italian custom calfskin shoes. And Juju asks him where he got these clothes from, to which Oweo tells her another kid gave them to him at the auction. He then tells her that it's late to ask such a question and asks if she will even be able to recognize him if he gets swapped one day. And Juju gets uneasy and waves her hand at her son's sharp tongue. She tells him that if he gets replaced one day, she will find out right away since his adorable face is the only one in the world. She then hurries towards the kitchen after telling him that she wasn't able to notice his change of clothes since she was looking at his cute face and telling him to sit obediently while she makes him a delicious meal. After she goes away, Oweo sighs heavily. He looks around the room and sighs again, and then Juju returns to the room with their meals and asks him what the matter is since he keeps sighing. Oweo looks at her in all seriousness and flatly says that he didn't realize they were really poor. His words strike in Juju hard. She laughs it off and tells him to eat noodles first. Oweo looks down at the food in disgust and asks her if it is really her definition of a big meal. This jabs her again. Suddenly, the TV plays the news of a major theft that took place today. The voice reports that the gemstone Aurora Borealis was unexpectedly stolen today. Oweo looks at the gemstone that is placed on the table and realizes it's the same gemstone. He quickly deciphers the whole situation and realizes that the woman sitting next to him has stolen it. He accepts that poverty is a pity, but that doesn't justify her being a thief. He thinks about how angry his father must be since he really wanted the gemstone and even agreed to buy it at the auction for the first time. He tells Juju that she's dead for sure. Juju chucks food in his mouth and asks him if he has been peeking at her boss's manga as she feeds him food. She asks him whether he is studying to be president because he has no future for that. Ao stops her because he can't take the disgusting food anymore. His stomach growls immediately, and he rushes to the bathroom. Juju calls him from outside to see if he's fine and advises him not to stay long as he may get hemorrhoids. Oweo is stuck on a toilet seat as his fragile gut couldn't take the food. He turns angry and thinks of how that woman is really dead now. The scene shifts to Juju and Oweo walking inside a mall. Oweo is holding Juju's finger as she asks him if he wants to eat his favorite fried chicken. Oweo tells her that one must mainly eat light food and avoid oily unhealthy junk food after diarrhea. She itches her face and says that they can stick to drinking rice kanji. Bow Wow sighs and pities her previous kid, as it must have been tough on him to live like this. Meanwhile, Yuding sneezes and wonders who is thinking about him. As Juju and Oweo walk around, they notice a crowd of people gathered, and Juju wonders why a customer is accusing a staff member of cheating them. Juju notices Lu Pei and realizes that she works here. She wonders if Lu Pei encountered a difficult customer and looks at the customers, only to realize they were Bai Xinrong and Xinquan. They were angry at Lu Pei and accused the shop of hiring a nobody just to increase their company's profits. Bai Xinrong rudely asks if they have any pride left. Bai Xinrong is Juju's enemy, and Juju remembers how her mother was taken in by Xinrong and her mother Xiaomei 5 years ago, but who knew that they would bite the hand that fed them, went on to seduce Juju's father Bai Yongchang, and cause her mother's death. Most importantly, she starts remembering what Bai Xinrong did to her 5 years ago. She caused Juju to sleep with a stranger just before her wedding, ruining her reputation. At that time, Juju asked her fiancé Xinquan for help, but he refused and called her a defiled lady. In the end, those vows he made to Juju did not even last for such a shallow problem. Oweo looks up at Juju's serious expression and wonders if something bad happened between the staff employee and her. He pulls at Juju's hand and asks if she is okay. Juju crouches down and pats Oweo's head, assuring him she's fine. Her smile makes Oweo blush, and Juju mentally contemplates how she is not the same as she was in the past when she had nothing. In the meantime, Bai Xinrong is still arguing with the staff. She crosses her arms arrogantly and asks if they still want to blame the innocent and ask her to pay the bill instead of compensating for traumatizing her. She even threatens to sue them. Lu Pei looks at Bai Xinrong confidently and asks how she could have possibly scratched her when, according to the CCTV, she did not even bump into her. She continues that she hopes for Bai Xinrong to take appropriate responsibility for her actions and rather compensate her for the bangles she broke. The other customers in the shop were recording the fight with their mobiles and started whispering to each other. One says that it is the first time he has seen someone demanding compensation when they were the ones who broke someone's items. However, a girl says that not knowing both sides of the story and just jumping to conclusions means that there's a chance the staff member did something wrong. But another argues that seeing the customer's arrogant face clearly indicates that she is trying to cheat the company out of money by causing a racket. Hearing their words, Bai Shinrong turns more furious. She again charges at Lu Pei, yelling that she doesn't want to waste her time with her and to call a manager instead so she can sue her. Suddenly, somebody interrupts Bai Shinrong by grabbing her by the arm. She turns around angrily and asks who has the audacity to interrupt her. She finds Juju smirking, who tells her that it's been years since they last saw each other, yet Bai Shinrong is getting shameless day by day. Bai Shinrong is stunned to see Juju and finds it impossible to believe that she ran over her. Juju comes closer to her and tells her not to be surprised since the reason she's back is to send Bai Shinrong into the pits of hell. She then pushes Bai Shinrong's hand away, claiming it is dirty. Lu Pei approaches her worriedly and asks if she is okay, to which Juju assures her not to worry as she's there to help her. All of a sudden, Shin Quan approaches Juju and is about to tell her he's glad she's back but gets interrupted by her. Juju looks at him stiffly and says she doesn't recognize him in a formal manner. Shin Quan is about to speak again, taken aback at Juju treating him like a total stranger, but Bai Shinrong tugs at his sleeve. Bai Shinrong reminds him that she's her fiancé, not Juju. Shin Quan turns speechless. She says to Juju in a mocking manner that she is not one to speak because she was the one who had become intimate with a random guy, got pregnant, and had been chased out of her house by her birth father. She also tells her off for hanging out in cahoots with the staff member Lu Pei. People started whispering again. They wonder how such an innocent face like Juju's can shamefully be intimate with a random guy, and they also start questioning the staff member's innocence. They wonder if Juju and the staff member are working together to cheat the customer out of money. Since their words clearly sided with Bai Shinrong, she smirks at Juju, who is speechless. Lu Pei comes to Juju's side and curses at them. Immediately, a heavy box lands on Bai Shinrong's foot, causing her to scream in pain. Juju looks at the commotion and finds Ao to have thrown the box. Ao angrily stares at Bai Shinrong and asks her why she's bullying his mother. Bai Shinrong turns furious and calls Ao a barbaric kid who doesn't have the least bit of discipline. She raises her hand to hit Ao but is instead slapped by Juju. She looks at Bai Shinrong coldly and questions her worthiness to discipline her son. Bai Shinrong places her hand on her swollen face, and Juju starts to look vulnerable and pats Ao's head. She weakly says that she has been raising her child alone since his father died. Ao turns irritated and reminds her that he's still alive, and Juju hugs him and pretends to cry, saying that they don't deserve to be bullied just because the man in their family died. Bai Shinrong, who's still holding her stinging face, asks why she's crying when she's the one who attacked her first. The people start to analyze the current situation. On one side, there is Juju with her son looking small, helpless, and pitiful, while on the other hand, there's Bai Shinrong, who seems large and aggressive. It suddenly clicks with them, and they turn to criticize Bai Shinrong. They call her vicious for saying such rude things to the mother and her son. As Bai Shinrong starts to protest, all of them start pointing their fingers at her. They call her immoral for not respecting the family's misfortune and shameless. They threaten to call the Silver 8181 hotline to report her, and Juju smirks at the sudden change in public opinion. She looks at Bai Shinrong and tells her that one shouldn't be too arrogant as it would come back to bite them. She calls her a loser and gestures a downward thumb at her. Bai Shinrong points her finger at Juju and tells her that she will pay for the bangle, but she should also pay for the bangle her son threw in front of the crowd, and Juju goes away saying she will definitely pay, unlike her. Bai Shinrong points her finger at the bangle and asks the staff member the price of the bangle, to which the staff member tells her it's for 3 million. Juju swiftly turns back in shock and asks the price again. The staff member smiles at her and tells her it's for $3 million and asks her how she would like to pay, by 10-pay liability funds or card. She further explains that their shop supports any kind of payment. Behind her, Liu Pei whispers to Juju to run away, and Juju looks at her uneasily and thinks of how impossible it is to run in such a situation. Ao frowns and claims the price is too small. He hands out a card and asks the staff member to use it. Lu Pei and the other staff member look at him in dismay and remark that it's a limitless black credit card. Bai Xinrong also looks at Oeo startled, wondering how it's possible. She wonders how Juju could have so much money when she is poor, and her personal assets were chased out of Bai's house 5 years ago. Oeo looks up at Bai Xinrong and tells her not to even bother thinking, as she will never know anything since she seems like a person who only knows how to plan harm against others. He calls her brainless to carry out any plans and warns her that in the end, her reputation will fall to a pathetic lady who wanders the streets. His straightforward words offend Bai Xinrong heavily, but she holds back, and Juju looks at him thinking of how his sharp wits can really be a double-edged sword and wonders how her son got the black credit card. Oeo looks at her, wondering if she has finally realized his true identity, and Juju whispers in his ear to tell her honestly where he got the credit card and if he stole it. Oeo finds Juju quite slow and wonders if his father suspects something is wrong already. Meanwhile, Mr. G stands on a stool and peeks through Oeo's room from a window. He feels like a perverted stalker and proceeds to say to Mr. G that he doesn't think the young master will appear as he finds the bed empty. Mr. G, who is seated comfortably in front of the TV showing Oeo's room, tells him that he will definitely appear. In that moment, Buting appears in the room and happily exclaims that it's a great time to do things in secret since there's no one at the house. He turns on the mobile and enters the recipient's bank account and his mother's card number. He successfully transfers the money into her account when Mr. G signals to enter Oeo's room. As Mr. G and his assistant enter the room, Buting stands up in shock. Mr. G smiles at him and calls him a cunning brat for selling off his $5 billion worth of stock. He pats Buting's head and confirms the recipient's name as Juju, saying that they must invite her here to be their guest. In the interim, Juju is staring at the black credit card while Oeo is reading Buting's comic book. Juju asks if he stole the card at the auction the other day. She thinks to herself that the people there were either rich or super rich, and if they find out about this, she can't pay them back. She suddenly gets an idea and proceeds to hack the system through her laptop. Oeo tells her it's wrong to hack, and she's spoiling him. It is because hacking the system is against their country's law and carries a very heavy penalty. Suddenly, her phone starts ringing, she picks it up, and it's her father on the line. His eyes widen, and he asks Juju if it's really her. He has not heard from her for the past 5 years and expresses his concern for her. Anju frowns as she hears her father's voice. Her father didn't even care when her mother was killed, and when she was about to be stabbed, he didn't even worry about it either. But now he's called her because he's worried about her. To Anjuju, there is an obvious intention behind her father's concern because 5 years cannot really change a person's conscience. She asks if it's true, to which her father smirks. He tells her to come home and celebrate Aunt May's birthday with them. He also asks for her help in choosing a gift for Aunt May. Hearing this, Juju gives a sly smile and assures him to leave it to her as she will prepare a wonderful gift for her. As soon as the call ends, Xiaomi asks him if Juju agreed. Bai Yongqian tells her that she could not have refused her father. Xiaomi's complexion darkens as she greedily tells him that she heard from Xinrong that Juju has a potent VIP black card, meaning she must have a lot of money and should spend some on her father. Bai Yongqian tells Xiaomi that even if Juju doesn't come tomorrow, he will find another way to tie her up and demand money. The next day, Juju arrives at the party holding Oeo's hand. People turn to look at them, praising Juju as pretty and Oeo as cute. Bai Xinrong and Xinquan smile at her. Bai Xinrong asks Juju if she has prepared a gift for her mother. Her wicked demeanor has changed completely since she now knows Juju has a lot of money. Juju walks past them, telling her to stop faking as it's hurting her ears. She tells her that she has prepared the present. She and Oeo then sit at their table as her father initiates a speech. He thanks everyone for coming to his wife's birthday. Bai Yongxiang, radiating joy, took the stage for the opening speech, expressing gratitude to all attendees for celebrating his wife Jiao Mei's birthday. Amidst the festive atmosphere, Juju arrived, causing a stir. Xinquan, visibly agitated, approached Juju, expressing remorse for past actions and professing a desire for reconciliation, even in the face of her new life and child. Juju, unmoved, calmly questioned Xinquan about Bai Xinrong, revealing her past fears and disdain. Despite Xinquan's escalating fervor and pleas, Juju remained steadfast, dismissing his advances and asserting her independence. Amidst the tense atmosphere, Shin Kwan's bizarre proposition left Juju speechless. However, before Juju could respond, Ao's intimidating presence and Juju's assertive declaration added to the tension. Shin Kwan, taken aback by Ao's aura, found himself flustered by the child's demeanor. As the event unfolded, attention turned to the stage, where a shocking sight awaited. Instead of the expected blessing video, an inappropriate clip played on the screen, causing an uproar among the audience. The presence of a familiar woman, bearing a supernatural aura akin to Xingrong, only heightened the chaos. Yongxiang's impassioned speech turned to anger as he witnessed the unexpected turn of events, while Xingrong, visibly distressed, could only hold his head in dismay. Meanwhile, the spectators couldn't help but comment on the resemblance between mother and daughter, sympathizing with Mr. Bai's unfortunate situation. The situation took a comical turn as people began mocking the predicament, with Juju silently reveling in her successful scheme. Shin Kwan, feeling the weight of the situation, vehemently denied any involvement, his agitation evident in his argumentative expression. As tensions escalated, Xingrong, overwhelmed with panic and anger, mistakenly accused Juju, lashing out in a fit of rage. However, Juju, ever vigilant, swiftly subdued Xingrong's subordinate, ready to defend herself against his unfounded accusations. As tensions reached a boiling point, Juju harbored a silent determination, inwardly daring Xingrong to take her life, convinced that if she had not perished 5 years ago, he wouldn't have the audacity to confront her now. With a swift motion, she retaliated against Xingrong's slap, meeting his aggression with her own resolve. Meanwhile, Zhao Mei, now disheveled and enraged, joined the fray, accusing Juju of orchestrating a malicious plot against her and her daughter. Amidst the chaos, a commanding voice cut through the commotion, asserting that the speaker's son was indeed a bastard. The chilling presence emanating from the speaker cast a palpable sense of fear over the banquet hall, leaving everyone unsettled. Suddenly, a tall man approached, his eyes fixed on the impeccably tailored iron gray suit and perfectly pressed trousers worn by Jin Chang. With proportions akin to a model and striking facial features, the man exuded an air of sophistication and elegance. As he was addressed, Ao sought refuge in Juju's protective gaze, cowering beneath her skirt as she timidly called out "Daddy." However, Juju swiftly reprimanded the child, questioning their outburst. In a moment of panic, he revealed the tragic fate of Ao's father, his words shattering the child's innocence. Meanwhile, bystanders observed Juju's unconventional behavior, silently deeming her actions as futile. Amidst the chaos, Xingrong, flaunting his wealth, hurled insults, accusing Juju of illegitimacy and casting doubt on her mother's fidelity. Juju, having been expelled from her home 5 years ago due to her pregnancy, was now facing accusations and insults aimed at tarnishing her reputation. Despite her efforts to defend herself, Xingrong's malicious intent paled in comparison to Ji Jingqian's imposing presence. Determined to secure a marriage with Ji Jingqian, Yongxiang seized the opportunity to curry favor with him, vilifying Juju in the process. As Ji Jingqian made his entrance, Yongxiang approached him with obsequious gestures, urging him to avoid the influence of evil individuals like Juju. Observing their interaction, Juju couldn't help but feel a sense of injustice. However, Ji Jingqian's response was decisive and assertive, affirming his recognition of her identity and exposing the hypocrisy of those around them. The revelation sent shockwaves through the crowd, igniting further speculation and gossip. Amidst the chaos, Juju could only watch with a mix of resignation and frustration. As the chaos ensued, Juju found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. When Jin Chang made a dismissive remark about the notion of her being his woman, Juju couldn't help but feel a pang of hurt. However, amidst the confusion, a dramatic actor seized the opportunity to exploit the situation, clinging to Jin Chang and appealing to him for protection. Observing the unfolding drama, Jin Chang's demeanor shifted, his dark gaze now tinged with amusement at Juju's predicament. Taking charge of the situation, Jin Chang asserted his authority and silenced the belligerent individuals with a commanding presence. As he drew Juju into his embrace, he issued orders to his bodyguards, effectively restoring order and ensuring their privacy. In that moment, Juju's heart raced as she watched Jin Chang leading their son away from the hotel. The sight of him striding confidently, his powerful presence reminiscent of a regal king, unsettled her. Determined to protect her son, Juju quickened her pace to catch up with Jin Chang, demanding to know his intentions. Meanwhile, from inside the car, Pudding's distressed cries reached her ears, pulling at her heartstrings. Juju's gaze shot towards the vehicle, her eyes widening in disbelief as she saw her son pressed against the window, chubby hands pounding on the glass in a desperate bid to escape. As she struggled to comprehend the situation, a chilling thought crossed her mind: could it be that her son had been replaced with a clone? With each passing moment, Juju's anxiety intensified, spurred on by Pudding's frantic pleas for help. Juju was overwhelmed with relief as he heard Pudding's familiar voice calling out their secret code word Pan. It was indeed his son inside the car. With a rush of emotions, Juju quickly approached the vehicle and knocked on the window, eager to embrace his son. As Pudding confirmed his identity, the tension dissolved, and mother and son were finally reunited in a warm embrace, their bond stronger than ever. Ao and Jinshin exchanged a knowing glance, silently acknowledging the moment, before deciding to give them privacy. However, Juju couldn't shake off his confusion and sought clarification from Jinshin. Sensing her uncertainty, Jinshin handed him a document, the paternity test report confirming their biological relationship. As Juju read the document, his eyes widened in astonishment, realizing the undeniable truth: Jinshin was indeed Pudding's father, the man from that fateful night 5 years ago. Memories of that intense encounter flooded back, leaving her feeling overwhelmed and breathless. The echoes of that passionate night still lingered in her mind, each moment etched vividly in her memory. Caught in the whirlwind of emotions, Juju was jolted back to the present by Jinshin's concerned voice calling her name. Startled, she struggled to regain her composure, feeling as if she were suffocating under the weight of her thoughts. How could Jinshin be the same man Shinron had described as an old man? The revelation left her reeling with confusion and disbelief. Juju couldn't comprehend how the man she remembered from 5 years ago could now be Jinshin. As Juju grappled with these bewildering revelations, she couldn't shake the nagging question that plagued her mind: what had transpired 5 years ago? Despite her certainty that she had only given birth to one child, Pudding, the sudden appearance of another child had thrown her world into disarray. Juju's thoughts raced as she tried to piece together the puzzle of her past, her expression reflecting her inner turmoil. Meanwhile, Pudding and Ao observed Juju's distress, sensing that something was amiss. Despite their young age, they could sense the tension in the air and exchanged worried glances, unsure of how to comfort their mother amidst her inner turmoil. Juju felt a rush of emotions as she faced Jinshin's cold demeanor and his proposition to buy Pudding. She stood her ground, her determination unwavering, refusing to entertain the idea of parting with her son under any circumstances. Pudding was her lifeline, her reason for persevering through the hardships of the past. Jinshin's calm voice pierced through the tension, pressing Juju to name her price for keeping Pudding at the Ji household. However, Juju's resolve only strengthened in the face of his offer. She declared adamantly that she would never agree to any conditions that involved relinquishing custody of her son. Pudding was her sole source of hope, and she was prepared to fight tooth and nail to protect him. Yet, Jinshin's next words struck Juju like a bolt of lightning, halting her protests. He revealed the unsettling truth about the events of 5 years ago, explaining that he had been in a state of confusion and ignorance regarding the identity of the woman in the room. Only later did he receive news of the mother's death in childbirth, leaving him with no leads or clues to unravel the mystery. Jinshin remained resolute in his pursuit, asserting his determination to acquire whatever he desired, regardless of the means employed. Juju, holding the Pudding key tightly, confronted Jinshin with fervor, denouncing him as a villain for daring to bully her mother. Witnessing their heated exchange, Ao intervened wisely, gently restraining Juju's actions and calming the trembling child. With a tender plea, Ao appealed to Juju's maternal instincts, urging her not to abandon the innocent child. Juju, overcome with emotion, hesitated, her heart torn between conflicting desires. Observing this poignant scene, Jinshin, with a sly glint in his eyes, seized the opportunity to approach Juju, appealing to her sense of familial responsibility and offering himself as a compliant and easy-to-manage companion. As Juju grappled with the decision, her motherly instincts tugged at her heartstrings, compelling her to consider staying together with Ao. Despite her reservations about her financial capacity, Juju couldn't resist the warmth of the moment and tenderly caressed Ao's face, acknowledging his father's ability to provide for him. Pudding unexpectedly interjected with a revelation about a 500 million sum of money. Startled by the revelation, Juju questioned the significance of 500 million, only to be further surprised when Jingchen seized the opportunity to present her with an exorbitant bill, teasingly suggesting that it was the cost of pudding at his establishment. Caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, Juju found herself once again embroiled in a perplexing situation. Jingchen's cunning demeanor seemed to intensify as he revealed the exorbitant cost of the tickets, relishing in the shock it induced in Juju. With a calculating gleam in his eyes, he casually mentioned the staggering total of 731 million, leaving Juju utterly flabbergasted. Overwhelmed by the realization of the daunting sum, Juju couldn't help but despair, wondering how she could possibly come up with the remaining 200 million. However, Jingchen remained composed and in control, calmly proposing a solution that seemed too good to be true. He offered to clear the debt entirely if Juju agreed to live with AO in the Ji household. Stunned by the unexpected turn of events and the prospect of having her financial burden lifted, Juju's spirits were instantly revived. With a mix of disbelief and hope, she cautiously inquired, seeking confirmation of Jingchen's offer. AO looked at Juju with a mixture of helplessness and amusement as they entered the opulent home of the wealthy family. Correcting himself, he affectionately referred to Juju as Mommy. Juju couldn't help but smile at AO's endearing gesture, her heart brimming with joy. Juju gazed around at the opulent surroundings of Jingchen's lavish abode, feeling a mixture of awe and resignation. Observing her reaction, both Juju and Pudding expressed their excitement with wagging tails, their delight evident in their playful antics. Amidst the grandeur of the celebrity's residence, adorned with attentive butlers and glamorous attendants, they were greeted with utmost respect. The courteous butler, with a gentle demeanor, addressed Juju with a polite request for permission before guiding her to her designated quarters. Nestled on the sumptuous bed, Juju and Pudding luxuriated in the softness of the plush bedding, their joy palpable. Juju invited AO to join them. Although he initially declined, the allure of maternal affection proved irresistible, prompting him to take hesitant steps toward the bed, where he was enveloped in Juju's loving embrace. Despite being just a child, Pudding attempted to mimic his mother's expression, managing only a comical ouch as he tried to smile. Juju chuckled affectionately at his attempts, her heart swelling with love for her children. Meanwhile, Jingchen stood at the doorway, observing the tender scene before him. Witnessing Juju's playful interaction with the children, a faint smile graced his lips, hinting at a newfound appreciation for the warmth and joy they brought into his life. Prompted by Pudding's insistence, Jingchen was gently pulled into the room, where the children eagerly invited him to join them. As Pudding excitedly urged him to sleep next to their mother, Jingchen couldn't help but feel bemused by their innocent antics. Meanwhile, the butler, witnessing the harmonious scene, couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Eager to share the news of the young mistress's return with the master and mistress of the house, he made plans to inform them of the joyful reunion. The following morning, Juju and her 2 children lay peacefully asleep in bed, their slumber undisturbed. Juju awoke with a dull ache lingering in her body. Recalling the events of the previous night, she remembered how the 2 little troublemakers had insisted on Jingchen joining them in bed. Firmly refusing their request, Juju had been taken aback when Pudding relayed her message to Jingchen with a mischievous grin. Unfazed by her refusal, Jingchen had advanced towards her with an ominous smile, flexing his muscles in a teasing challenge. Caught off guard by Jingchen's playful demeanor, Juju had instinctively grabbed a nearby pillow and hurled it at him and the children, eliciting cheers from the mischievous duo. Exhausted from the late-night antics, Juju had eventually drifted off to sleep, only to be startled awake by a sudden movement beside her. Reacting in a panic, Juju's hand had instinctively lashed out, making contact with Jingchen's abdominal muscles. Startled by her own action, she had recoiled in fear, mistaking Jingchen for an intruder. However, she soon realized her mistake as she saw Jingchen gently covering her mouth, his expression softening with concern. As the adrenaline from the sudden scare began to fade, Juju couldn't help but feel a rush of embarrassment at her overreaction. Blushing furiously, she mumbled an apology to Jingchen, grateful for his understanding demeanor in the face of her panicked response. As Juju's hand brushed against Jingchen's toned abdomen, a surge of desire swept over her, clouding her judgment. However, before she could act further, Jingchen swiftly seized her hand, flipping her over and pinning her beneath him with commanding force. With a stern tone, he demanded to know what she was doing. Caught off guard and flustered by the sudden turn of events, Juju opened her mouth to explain, but her words were cut short by the unexpected arrival of the housekeeper at the door. Frozen in place, Juju's heart pounded with embarrassment as she struggled to find an explanation for the compromising position they were in. As the housekeeper observed the scene, Juju attempted to salvage the situation, insisting that it was all a misunderstanding and that nothing inappropriate had occurred. However, her protests fell on deaf ears as the housekeeper's judgmental gaze only added to her humiliation. To her dismay, Juju realized that the two mischievous children were nearby, unaware of the awkward predicament unfolding in their midst. Caught between embarrassment and frustration, Juju could only hope for a swift resolution to the embarrassing situation. As Juju finally rose from the bed, she found herself grappling with the chaos of toys strewn across the floor. Among them, a toy ball lay innocently waiting to trip her up. With a sigh of resignation, Juju stepped onto the ball, her heel slipping as she struggled to maintain her balance. As Jingchen was pressed against her, Juju felt a rush of familiarity, a sensation she hadn't expected. But before she could react, the awkward interruption by Mr. Ji and his wife at the door brought them back to reality. Separating quickly, Jingchen and Juju found themselves sitting apart in the hall, the tension palpable between them. Their parents' awkwardness only added to the discomfort in the room, leaving Juju feeling embarrassed and unsure of how to face them after the intimate moment they had just witnessed. They sat in silence for what felt like an eternity, neither knowing how to broach the subject. Finally, unable to bear the tension any longer, Juju mustered the courage to speak up. With a shaky voice, she addressed Jingchen, expressing her desire to find a place to hide from the embarrassment of the situation. But before she could finish, Ji's mother interjected, her tone disapproving and accusatory. Feeling unfairly judged, Juju bristled at the implication that she had any intention of intruding on their family dynamic. With a firm voice, she denied the accusation, asserting her independence and making it clear that she had no desire to be seen as an interloper in their family affairs. Juju was exasperated by the stubbornness of Jingchen's parents, feeling like their logic was spiraling into melodrama. She couldn't fathom how they could jump to such conclusions. Meanwhile, Jingchen, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up with an unexpected declaration. "What if I want to marry her?" Juju was taken aback by Jingchen's sudden assertiveness, feeling a mix of frustration and bewilderment. She couldn't believe he would say something like that after the misunderstanding they had just endured. With a mixture of anger and disbelief, she retorted, "Hey, can you make yourself any clearer? I've already explained everything." But Jingchen's mother, Ji Lu, remained obstinate in her stance, insisting that Juju and her children were not welcome in their family. Despite her protests, Ji Lu reiterated her demand to send the children away. Fueled by frustration and anger, Juju could no longer contain her emotions. Firstly, she began, her voice trembling with emotion, "I will not marry Jingchen. What happened earlier was just a misunderstanding.